If I had a penny every time I've heard people say, it's been a long week, I can't wait for the weekend to be here, I would have a lot of pennies by now. And yet, it's the weekends that keep most people stuck, broke, and unhealthy. Most of us stay structured during the week due to responsibilities, our careers, school, kids, homework, and our weekly routines bring lots of structure into our lives. But then, the weekend comes around and things get a little crazy. Not only does this cycle wreak havoc on people's bodies, but on Monday morning, most people feel like jumping off of a cliff when they must go back to their responsibilities. A study in 1987 by the Journal of Cardiology and a study in 2004 published in the European Journal of Epidemiology found that the incidence of acute myocardial infarction, AMI, was significantly higher on Mondays for working individuals than other days of the week based on people's choices, their lifestyle. I truly believe that if the week were 2 days long and the weekends were 5 days long, most people would be dead by now. The idiom, show me what you do with your spare time and I'll show you what your life looks like, sounds very convincing at this point. I believe clarity is potential power. I have had the privilege of working with many nutrition clients throughout the years, and I've noticed this very disruptive trend in people's lives. And I can confidently say that there is a solution to this challenge. I've seen people go from chaos to living peaceful, healthy lives in a very short period of time by simply structuring their weekends in a more productive way. If you can become strategic around your temptations, you can certainly stay on track with the structure that the weekend naturally brings about. Here are some steps so that you can prepare for success. A wise man once told me that success comes to those individuals that utilize the weekends to sharpen their sword and prepare. Number one, plan your weekend like you would the week. Be very specific about all of your activities. Pick a date, a time, and a place for meal prep and other activities that you know are going to keep you on track. This is probably one of the most important things because once again, during the weekends, we lose structure and we get a little crazy. So maintaining some of that structure from the week is going to put you above and beyond the vast majority of people that simply lay back, turn the TV on, and are covered in Dorito dust. And then Monday morning, they have no idea what hit them. Also, I think it's so important that just like the rooster, you stay consistent. Roosters tend to wake up and crow at the same time due to their internal biological clocks known as circadian rhythms. If you can keep your circadian rhythms consistent, not only are you gonna feel better, but you're actually gonna get more done. Number two, try to keep your bedtime and awake time relatively like the weekdays. This can be challenging, but it's worth the try. I truly believe that getting up at the same time you get up during the weekends can be exponentially one of the biggest hacks that you can incorporate in your life because now you're waking up early and you have the spare time to actually spend on your growth. Call that physically, mentally, or spiritually. I also believe that those that start well end well. My client Ashley, who lost 35 pounds in 90 days, says that the empty stomach cardio strategy that I taught her was literally the secret to her success. And so number three is make physical activity a priority first thing in the morning. You're gonna make better decisions throughout the day due to the fact that you'll be more cognizant around food, you'll pay more attention to food because you don't wanna mess up your 45, 60 minutes that you just did of cardio. Another aspect that I believe is incredibly important and it's overlooked every single time is the intrinsic peaks that comes with those that take the time first thing in the morning to pray. I believe that there's also favor to those that speak to God before the day starts. It shows humility and a contrite heart before the Lord. I believe also that favor is granted by our Heavenly Father to those that put Him first. And so number four, make sure you take time to read, to pray, to meditate, to journal, and more importantly, to nourish your soul. This is one of the most important things and one of the things that is so overlooked. I see people rushing, even those that pray, sort of check the box where you should really be spending time here. And I believe that it's gonna have a tremendous impact on your peace. You're gonna have more clarity. You're gonna have the ability, as you're praying, to visualize what your day looks like, and that can be very, very powerful. Also, when you plan your cheat meals, there's an internal permission that you give yourself, which is super powerful. This gives you the ability to release all judgment towards your actions, because when we cheat, we have a cheat meal, then we just carry that guilt around all day long. And what actually happens when you're carrying that guilt around is that you actually go and have more cheats as a byproduct of that. This can be very liberating to actually give yourself that permission, because it sends signals to your subconscious mind, which, by the way, controls 97% of your daily actions. So what you're doing is you're communicating to your subconscious mind that what you're doing is okay. You're being proactive at it. And then what happens is the very next meal, you get back on track. So number 5, plan those cheat meals. Or if you're gonna drink alcohol, maybe you're a social drinker, right? Make sure that you pick a date, a time, and a place, and that you stick to that, right? The other thing I would say with cheat meals is that you wanna eat your protein first, because protein will keep you very satiated throughout the rest of the day. That's one of the great properties of protein. It doesn't spike a lot of insulin, and it keeps you pretty full. Lastly, I wanna say that if you want to soar like an eagle, you can't hang around with scavengers. I know that sounds a little brass, and probably you're thinking this guy's so insensitive, but the truth is most of my clients, tell me when I tell them this whole thing about you want to soar like an eagle, you can't hang out with scavengers. They're like, ouch, JT, like those are my friends, those are my family. And I think this is one of the most challenging parts of actually raising your lifestyle standards, is getting away from those people that you know exactly who they are, right? It's those people that every time you come around them, you're drinking or eating a little too much. Number 6, be careful with those toxic environments. People, places, things, so important, because you can be on track, you can have the best intentions, but if you get around these environments, they're gonna bring you down before you actually bring them up. John Maxwell, which most of us know, he has many books out, but in particular, there is a principle that I love by John Maxwell, and it's called the lid. It says that for an individual or organization to actually scale or grow, they must raise their lid. We can only grow as much as our current lid allows us to grow. And so number 7 is a growth mindset is required in order for you to move forward. Get outside of your comfort zone, upgrade your circle of influence, make sure you are a reader. Remember, readers are leaders. Journal, seek solitude. And more importantly, something that this day and age is kind of overrated for most people is the idea of quiet contemplation. These can be some of the most productive times of the day. And so remember, this is outside of all the conventional stuff with the meal prep and the exercise. These are little pieces that may seem as not being important, and yet I believe it's one of the most important things to really consider during the weekends, because there's so much chaos during the weekend. In conclusion, I want to say this: like anything else, all good things can be challenging. All good things require hard work. I get a lot of slack from people because they'll say, JT, life should have balance. And yes, I totally agree that balance and structure and entertainment should be intertwined in our lives. We should have a nice balance between those two things. However, I believe that balance shouldn't include toxic behaviors simply because it's the weekend. The problem with that is you exert too much energy, and then you have to spend 2 or 3 days recovering from your entertainment. I can tell you that the peace and the health that I've experienced by being sober and having a structured environment surpasses any of the toxic highs that I experienced in my dark days. If you're a Christian especially, our bodies are temples where God dwells. And if you believe that, then you're called to be a steward of your body, and you're supposed to treat it with the utmost respect. I hope that this video has planted a seed of hope, and that things can be very different in a positive way if you actually decide to get structured. Check out this video here if you want to dig a little deeper into this subject. My name is JT Tapias with the Empty Your Bucket Nutrition Plan. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll talk to you guys soon. Ciao, ciao.